Now, private security firms and charities are being brought in to replace probation officers and supervise low-risk offenders, and they'll be paid according to how they perform. The unions say the move spells the end of a century-old service in England and Wales, and they believe the government's real aim is to cut costs. Our Home Affairs correspondent Simon Israel reports.
Chris Grayling is under pressure to deliver. His department is bottom of today's league table on Coalition's unfulfilled promises. So it's probably no coincidence that today is also the day the Justice Secretary unveiled stage 2 of the so-called rehabilitation revolution.
In order to make it work, we have to have a situation where actually we migrate people out of the probation trusts into the new entities.
The plans for a payment by results system to cut reoffending, with 70% going to the entities, the private sector and charity groups like the St Giles Trust.
What a payment by results environment does is it creates a world in which innovation can flourish. And you're talking about people, mentors who sit at the heart of the system, working alongside an offender, making sure that the rehab course they started in prison carries on in the community, making sure they've got somewhere to live, making sure they're booked onto a training course. All too often now that just doesn't happen. And as a result, you've got people who don't get their lives back together again and return to a life of crime.
Isn't this really just a rush to save money by 2015?
This is all about getting value for the money we spend. We spend £1 billion a year on all of this, and we have 50% of people reoffending.
Ex-offender mentoring has emerged in pilot projects as a crucial factor. Wendy Rowley, a mother of 4, got an 8-year prison sentence for acting as a drug mule.
Being away from my children was a massive, massive loss for me. So I thought to myself, if I don't change my life and I go back to how I was before, I'm going to end up either dead, losing my children, or just being a nobody.
She's mentored over 130 women offenders. Their reoffending rates have halved.
A lot of the chaotic ladies that are on that cycle of offending, a lot of them have lost their children to adoption or fostering. We try and establish letterbox contact for them, or try and get them counselling, because the despair of losing their children keeps them drinking, keeps them taking drugs. So we try to address that and give them some kind of contact.
So the plan is for every offender to be met at the prison gates. But that's the easy part. The real difficulty is how payment by results overcomes problems like mental health, drugs, housing, domestic violence, employment, and a whole host of other factors that drive the reoffending rates.
The problem with this system is it's untried, it's untested. It has been tried in the work and pensions field and failed. And what the government is doing is, rather than pilot this by trying it, they're rolling it out. And you've got an additional 60,000 offenders being brought on stream, no additional funding, and the likes of G4S and A4E, with the greatest respect of them, have no experience in this area.
The proposals will leave the public probation service with around 50,000 offenders who pose the greatest risk. Consortia will bid for contracts. The rollouts plan to start in 2015. According to the Justice Secretary, this is not a revolution, but evolution in progress. The question is, who carries the risk if things don't work out?